In 2012, a report made by Fairleigh Dickinson University made quite a splash in the US political scene. The investigators asked about 1,000 people a series of questions based upon domestic and foreign affairs, and ranked them by the number of answers they got correct, and by the kinds of news that they tended to ingest. It turns out that on the domestic front, people who watch only Fox News scored the lowest, lower than NPR, CNN, MSNBC, lower than those who watch The Daily Show, even lower than those who didn't follow any news at all. This, as you can imagine, sent the internet into quite a frenzy. Numerous outlets claimed that Fox tended to make viewers less informed. Others went as far as to say that the network made people stupid. And in the years since, the study continues to pop up in online discussions when people try to make the point that Fox News is not only strongly biased to the right, that it is deleteriously so. They argue, using these results, that Fox News is actually harmful to the American people. The study has gained the air of unimpeachable fact. See what I did there? But should it have? Should people have been so quick to jump on the study, and should they keep using it when trying to make the argument that there's something wrong with Fox? In short, probably not. But in long, there is a lot of nuance that the original study does not take into consideration. And when it is taken into consideration, the effect doesn't seem to be as strong or as all-encompassing as some people believe. Although there is something that still appears to be there, and that something is definitely worth mentioning. Normally in these videos, I base what I'm talking about off the research made by other social scientists and experts. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, as it were. This time, though, I get to actually talk about my own academic research, which I'm, pretty jazzed about. I actually just presented this paper less than a few weeks ago at a conference. I'll put a link down to the working paper in the doobly-doo for those who are interested. Emphasis on the working, though. There's some feedback that I'm going to need to incorporate before shipping it out for peer review. Alright, so what are the shortcomings of the original study that made me decide to do this investigation? First, let's look at the questions that the study used to judge people. With the exception of just one thing, all of the items are based off of current events. Why does that matter? Well, while current event recall certainly reflects one kind of political knowledge, it's far from the only kind. Knowing current events rely on people to be pretty vigilant about the news, and there's lots of things that you can know about politics without ingesting the news on a daily basis. Also not at all clear that this is the kind of knowledge that's going to help people actually engage with the political system. Additionally, the kinds of things that researchers put into a current events questionnaire is going to depend largely on the things that they prioritize, the things that they see on the news, which is going to be skewed based upon their own political interests, their ideology, and, their own news consumption. Second, if we look back on the differences between the different news agencies, we see that they actually aren't that high. This is especially important since the authors didn't report the confidence intervals for their estimates, so we aren't able to calculate whether the differences between news sources are statistically significant. Not only that, but there are a bunch of statistical controls that they don't include to make sure that the relationship isn't being driven by something else, something affecting both Fox News watching and political knowledge. Things like age, income, education, sex, race, things that, in my experience, definitely make up for the more than small gap seen between these observations. A third thing is that many people who are claiming this relationship are asserting that it's between Fox News and knowledge regardless of the medium, regardless of whether or not it's on foxnews.com or their cable news program. And while that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, research has been done to show that there are differences between how people gather news from online versus cable news sources and the amount of knowledge retained. My data let me test the effects associated with visiting foxnews.com compared to a bunch of other online news platforms. Unfortunately, data on people's knowledge and specific cable news habits are a bit harder to come by, so I'll only be able to talk about the effects of frequenting the website. In order to ameliorate the more methodological concerns, I do two things. First, I include a bunch of control variables: age, sex, race, education levels, income, party ID, ideology, a proxy for conservative identity, and their ex-ante interest in politics. This helps eliminate a bunch of other competing explanations and allows us to look as closely as we can to the relationship that we're actually interested in, that between Fox News consumption and political knowledge. On that point, I also use more than just a single kind of political knowledge. Respondents answered questions on two different dimensions of knowledge. I call the first process-oriented knowledge. These are the kinds of things that are good to know if you're trying to engage in the political process. I call the second society-oriented knowledge, which are the kinds of things that are good to know, when you're trying to understand what's going on in the social world. Remember when I said earlier that the survey had asked people whether or not they visited a bunch of different news sources? When I said a bunch, I meant a bunch of different online news sources. The survey asked respondents if they visited... Hold on, I'm gonna need a breath here. Fox, ABC, Huffington Post, Yahoo, CNN, NBC, CBS, New York Times, USA Today, Washington Post, Business Insider, the BBC, The Guardian, The Daily Mail, and BuzzFeed. Whew, that is, 15 different online news sources. If the Fox News effect is true, we should expect that visitors to the site will get fewer answers on both scales correct compared to both those who visit other sites and those who do not even get their news from the internet at all. For the curious / statistically nerdy among us, and, honestly, more accurately, probably the latter, I'm using a Poisson regression model with heteroscedastic robust standard error since the dependent variable is a count. Negative binomial isn't really necessary here because, for once, the data doesn't exhibit over-dispersion, and zero-inflated models are also unnecessary since most people identified at least getting one answer right. I use OLS as a robustness check, and the results from those models are substantively similar from this, so, everything looks good there. Alright, for those of you who are just like,
what the actual hell is he saying?
what that all basically boils down to is the fact that I made a statistical model and double-checked its results with another different kind of model, and both came back with the same kind of results. And what were those results? This line here represents the baseline person who does not use the internet to get their news at all, and here are all the news organizations that respondents were asked about. The y-axis is the average predicted effect, with higher values meaning more correct answers, and the x-axis has all those news organizations. If the error bar crosses this line here, that means that we can't say that the news source is statistically significant. When it came to process-related knowledge, a few of the organizations were statistically significant in the positive direction. This included the BBC, CNN, and the Washington Post, with the New York Times just missing statistical significance. But Fox was not significant. Shoot, even if it wasn't negative. It was actually predicted to have a positive influence on the amount of process-oriented knowledge people had. But when I looked at society-oriented knowledge, though, the story changed. The BBC and CNN were still statistically significant and positive, with the New York Times reaching the threshold here. But Fox News was statistically significant and negative. Not only that, but when you do additional statistical testing, you find that the difference between Fox and the other sources is statistically significant for all but ABC. So, what does all this mean for the Fox News effect? It suggests that, yes, there actually is a Fox News effect out there, or at least a kind of Fox News effect. On the questions pertaining to society writ large, visiting foxnews.com is in fact associated with lower amounts of knowledge, and the association is statistically distinct from other news sources, as well as for people who do not even use the internet to get their news at all. However, it also suggests that the effect is nowhere near as all-encompassing as people suggest. Visiting the site is not associated with any significant effects for process-oriented knowledge. That is, those who visit the site on average are just as knowledgeable regarding how to interact with the system as anyone else. And the way I'm interpreting these findings is to say that visiting foxnews.com impacts different kinds of political knowledge, well, differently. But I want to emphasize that these results suggest an association but cannot actually address causality. Certain kinds of survey data can do so, but these can't. But on a practical standpoint, establishing associations is the first step to, further investigations. It's a first step, definitely. But this first step does show that the Fox News effect is less robust and certainly much more nuanced than many people believed previously. Now, full disclosure, this research has been presented at a conference but hasn't undergone peer review. It'll probably be out for review in early April, meaning that I won't hear anything back till June. If the review comes back that totally changes the meaning of the findings, I'll post an update video. Curious to see what you guys think about the Fox News effect and, the findings I presented, or other things you thought about while watching this video, or suggestions for future topics. I'm always happy to see those down in the comment section below. Looking forward to reading all of them and answering a few in the next office hours. Special thanks to those supporting Professor Politics on Patreon. I'd like to give a shout out to research assistant Sam Deely. Patrons get exclusive content, early content, and shout outs. So if you'd like to be able to help out, you can click the link down in the doobly-doo or at the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Last time we talked about why President Trump's popularity is as high as it is, so let's see what you guys had to say about that. First and foremost, any of y'all who aren't subscribed to Canubis really needs to go rectify that right now. Go do it. Seriously, I'm providing an opportunity for you to go do this. Second off, I really appreciate the compliment. Whenever I make a video like this, I kind of think to myself, I wonder if this is the video that's going to get me doxxed or swatted. But, it turns out that, 99.99% of the time, the Trump supporters who end up watching my videos recognize that I'm actually engaging with these topics earnestly and that I'm really trying to understand everything about it. Because after all, and I think everyone can agree to this, President Trump is definitely not the normal case. It is an unconventional presidency so far. So I think they recognize that I'm trying to engage with this as best as I can as a scientist, first and foremost. Hooligan Comedy, which is the channel ran by Sam Deely, by the way, talks about the roles of intellectual silos and opinion bubbles that have been happening and being caused by social media companies and how these play a role with this. And I absolutely agree. These are definitely a fact. How strongly these silos can influence polarization, how, impenetrable they are, all those sorts of things are up for debate. But I think the consensus in the scholarly community is that these things are important parts of this sorts of things. It's definitely going to matter. I do. I absolutely think that it's possible for him to win. For one, incumbents have done very, very well over the last 30 years. The last president to seek re-election and lose was HW in '92. Every president since then has been a two-term president. Thinking that 2020 is in the bag, especially this far out from the election, is the fastest way the Democrats can lose it. That'll do it for this week. Thank you guys so much for your comments. I truly appreciate reading them, and I thank you guys for all the time and consideration that you put into them. Sources for everything is always be down in the doobie-doo, as well as links fixed between the blog, for you guys out there as well. If you enjoyed this video, hope you consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by commenting down below, by sharing this video, by subscribing to the channel, stay in the loop for more awesome social science content as uploaded. If you want to be guaranteed to be in the loop when I upload a new video, be sure to click the bell icon as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.